Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got a really interesting piece of television history to get into today, something with a bit of a different flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking at an episode of The X-Files this time, specifically Avatar, which was the 21st episode of the third season. It first aired back on April 26, 1996.
Right, 96. And this one's what they call a Monster of the Week episode, so it's kind of separate from the main alien conspiracy storyline that runs through the show.
Exactly. What makes Avatar really stand out, I think, is that it doesn't focus on Mulder and Scully in the usual way.
No, it really shifts perspective.
Yeah, it puts assistant director Walter Skinner right in the spotlight. The whole story revolves around him.
And it kicks off with him in a really vulnerable place, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He's just been given divorce papers after 17 years of marriage.
Yeah, and he's clearly struggling with it, hesitant to sign. It shows a side of Skinner we don't often see. Usually he's so composed.
Stoic, yeah. And this personal crisis sort of sets the stage for everything else. He goes to a hotel bar.
Trying to escape, maybe. And he meets a woman, Karina Sales.
They spend the night together, but then, well, it gets dark fast.
Very fast. Skinner wakes up, apparently, from a nightmare and finds Sales dead beside him. And it's brutal. Her head's been twisted completely around.
Horrifying. And suddenly Skinner, this high-ranking FBI official, is the prime suspect in a murder investigation.
Right. Mulder and Scully get called in, but you can feel Skinner's reluctance. He's kind of lost at sea.
And the lead detective, Waltos, he definitely sees Skinner as the main suspect, especially when Skinner refuses a lie detector test.
Yeah, that doesn't look good, from the outside.
Not at all. So the investigation starts digging into Karina Sales.
And it turns out she had this double life, law secretary by day, but she also worked as a prostitute.
Which complicates things. The physical evidence is pretty damning too, isn't it?
It really is. Her spinal cord was crushed. That's the cause of death. And Skinner's fingerprints are the only ones found on her body.
Oof. But Scully finds something weird.
Yeah, classic Scully. She notices this phosphorescent substance around Sales' mouth and nose, something that just doesn't fit a normal crime scene.
A little glimmer of the X-File, maybe?
Could be. Mulder and Scully then talk to Sales' Madame, Lorraine Kelcher.
And she confirms Skinner paid for Sales' company that night.
Right. So the timeline fits, the payment fits. Skinner gets detained for a bit, but then released. Still, the suspicion is hanging heavy in the air.
Then things get even stranger for Skinner personally. He sees this woman.
Yeah, the woman in the red raincoat. Like this figure he apparently saw in his nightmare earlier.
Really unsettling. But then it turns out to be his estranged wife, Sharon.
Exactly. Which is confusing, but for Mulder, it just adds fuel to the fire. He thinks Skinner saw something supernatural, even if Skinner himself doesn't quite believe it yet.
And Mulder jumps straight to the paranormal, of course.
Of course. He suggests it might be a succubus. The female demon from folklore that preys on men.
Scully's reaction must have been priceless.
Pretty skeptical, yeah. But she does share that finding about the luminescent residue.
The glowing stuff.
Right. But then later it just disappears. Vanishes. Which, even gives Scully pause. Makes you wonder.
It really pulls you in. And then we learn more about Skinner's past issues.
Yeah, the episode digs into his personal life, these sleep problems he's been having. He admits to Mulder and Scully he's been having these nightmares. He's actually afraid to sleep because he keeps seeing this old woman.
An old woman.
Yeah. And he confesses he saw a similar figure way back during his service in Vietnam.
Wow. So this isn't entirely new.
No, but he'd always chalked the Vietnam vision up to, drugs he might have taken then. Now it seems connected to whatever's happening to him currently.
And just as he's opening up, things escalate again. His wife, Sharon.
Right. Despite the divorce papers, she's clearly worried about him. But then she gets run off the road, badly injured.
Terrible. And there's that really creepy detail about the airbag.
Oh, yeah. The airbag from Skinner's car, which caused her injuries when it deployed.
Yeah.
Has his face imprint on it.
But it's not Skinner's face.
Nope. Not his face, which strongly suggests someone is trying to frame him, really frame him hard.
And that's when the conspiracy element starts to creep in. Right. We see the smoking man.
Mm-hmm. Just watching Skinner's interrogation, silent observer, it makes Mulder think this whole thing is orchestrated.
Like someone's trying to discredit Skinner to hurt the X-Files unit.
Exactly. That's Mulder's theory. And the pressure works, because Skinner gets fired. Suspended, at least. Pushed out.
But Mulder doesn't give up. He gets Agent Pendrell involved.
Yeah. They analyze that airbag, try to figure out whose face is on it. Meanwhile, the situation gets even more dangerous. The Madame, Lorraine Kelcher, she's murdered.
So the killer is cleaning up loose ends.
Looks like it.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder and Scully decide they need to draw the real killer out. They plan to use another prostitute, Judy, as bait at the Ambassador Hotel.
High stakes. While all this is going on, Skinner has this really powerful moment.
He does. He goes to the hospital to see Sharon, who's still comatose, and he tells her why he couldn't sign the divorce papers. It's quite raw.
Yeah, very emotional. And then he has another vision.
Right then, yeah. He sees the old woman again, but almost immediately after, Sharon seems to stir, maybe wake up, like a sign of hope, almost.
And then the climax hits at the hotel.
Yeah, the trap is set, but an assassin attacks Scully and Judy, and just then, Skinner shows up. Out of nowhere, really.
And he takes down the attacker. Saves them.
He does, kills the guy. A decisive act that puts him back in control, in a way.
So how does it all wrap up?
Well, it's kind of a mixed resolution. Skinner gets rehired, reinstated, but he never explains how he knew to be at the hotel that exact moment.
That's left hanging.
Totally. And the visions, the old woman, still unexplained. But he goes back to work, puts his wedding ring back on, so maybe his marriage gets a second chance. It leaves you with questions.
Definitely. So shifting gears a bit, let's talk about what was happening behind the camera. It's pretty interesting that this was the first episode really centered on Skinner.
Yeah, that was a big deal. Usually he's, the supportive but stern boss figure. Putting him front and center was a departure.
And why did that happen? Was it planned long in advance?
Well, interestingly, no. It seems David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson had both asked for some time off around then.
So it created an opportunity.
Exactly. Necessity, It gave the writers a chance to flesh out Skinner's character, give Mitch Pileggi more to do, which was great.
That makes sense. And I heard Duchovny himself had a hand in the story.
He did, yeah. The initial idea actually came from him. He co-developed it with Howard Gordon, who then wrote the actual teleplay.
Cool. So even the main actors were contributing to the wider world of the show.
Seems like it. And speaking of things behind the scenes, there was apparently a deleted scene.
Oh, do tell.
A scene was filmed where the cigarette-smoking man actually meets with Skinner before Skinner's disciplinary hearing.
Wow. That could have changed things knowing that interaction happened. Adds another layer to the conspiracy.
Totally. Makes you wonder what was said, what deals might have been hinted at. But yeah, it got cut.
Another thing about this episode is the atmosphere. It's so rainy and gloomy.
It really is. That constant rain adds so much to the mood, that noir-ish feel. But here's a fun fact. During the actual filming in Vancouver...
Let me guess, it was sunny.
Mostly sunny, yeah. They had to use artificial rain machines to create that whole dreary atmosphere. Movie magic, right?
Absolutely. It definitely worked for the episode's vibe, especially with Skinner's mental state.
For sure. And the title itself, Avatar, is significant too.
How so?
Well, avatar comes from Sanskrit. It means a god descending or taking a physical form like human or animal.
Okay, so related to the visions.
Potentially. It ties into that mysterious old woman Skinner keeps seeing. Is she some kind of entity taking form? Or does it relate to Skinner himself undergoing some kind of transformation? It adds this thematic depth.
That's quite deep. And how did audiences react at the time? Was it popular?
It did pretty well, actually, despite maybe some mixed reviews from critics who perhaps missed the usual Mulder-Scully dynamic. It got a Nielsen rating of 9.3.
Which translates to?
Over 14 million viewers for its first broadcast. So yeah, people tuned in. They were clearly interested in Skinner's story.
That's a solid number.
Yeah.
You mentioned the atmosphere earlier, and the way they filmed Skinner's visions was quite distinct.
Oh yeah, very deliberately stylistic. They used soft lighting, slow motion, gave those sequences a really dreamlike, almost surreal quality. You feel like you're inside his head, experiencing that disorientation and fear with him.
And the old woman herself, the figure in the visions who played her.
That was actress Denise Crosby, actually. People might know her from Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh, really? But she looks so different.
Exactly. She was under heavy prosthetic makeup, completely disguised, and the show never really tells you who or what that old woman is supposed to represent. Her identity is kept a mystery.
Which, of course, leads to lots of fan theories.
Oh, tons. Over the years, people have speculated. Is she death? Is she Skinner's guilt, maybe from Vietnam or something else? Is she a literal demon like the succubus idea? The show just leaves it open.
Which is very X-Files, really.
Yeah.
Leaving those questions hanging.
It is. So yeah, wrapping up our look at Avatar, it's really this fascinating detour in the X-Files journey. It takes a supporting character, plunges him into this deeply personal, terrifying mystery, and mixes paranormal elements with that ever-present conspiracy shadow.
Yeah, it's a deep dive into Skinner's psyche, his past, his fears. And it leaves you with so many unanswered questions, doesn't it?
It really does. Like, what was the real threat to Karina Sales? What's the ultimate meaning of Skinner's visions? And that arrival at the hotel, how did he know? The episode doesn't spell it all out.
No, it trusts you, the listener, the viewer, to think about it. Which brings us to our final thought for you.
Considering all the ambiguity, especially around that old woman figure and Skinner's uncanny timing, what do you think was the real avatar he encountered?
Was something supernatural? A manifestation of his own guilt or trauma? Or maybe part of the larger conspiracy manipulating him?
It's worth pondering. Maybe even worth going back and watching Avatar again with some of these behind-the-scenes details and narrative threads in mind. It really adds layers to appreciating what they did with Skinner's character.
Absolutely. A truly unique episode. Well, thank you for exploring that one with us.
My pleasure. Always fun to revisit the classics.